Hello everybody, welcome to my video, and you know, I've been playing a lot of Wizard101. That is a true fact. Um, the whole, I'm currently filming this in quarantine. Um, I do not have a really epic mic, so I'm using my phone. So my phone is held upside down, so it looks like I'm like recording. I'm like an alien spaceship. I'm recording, and I'm just watching Bartleby pulsate. Just what every true American citizen should be doing right now, and that is playing Wizard101. So today I'm just going to be talking about kind of the basics of each school from a very common sort of standpoint from someone who has only recently started paying for Wizard101. So just kind of starting out, I was that guy that got to level 10 and then was like, dang, well, can't go anywhere now. Started a new wizard, got to level 10, repeat. So I'm going to give it to you from that sort of perspective because I've had a lot of experience just doing that over and over and over again. So, and I'm just going to be talking about that, very simple sort of video. And make sure to like and subscribe if you guys like the content. So let's just get into this. So first off, going over each school as a whole, or over like all of the schools, I guess, you have kind of two separate sort of styles, or not styles, but like groups. So you have the elemental schools, which consists of fire, ice, and storm. And you have the spirit schools, which consist of life, myth, and death. So they're separated, and mainly it's balance that kind of separates them into that, because you'll be able to cast spells that only deal with each group. And each school in the game has its own sort of focus, which I think is really cool. No school is really similar to the other one. So, and you will enjoy playing every school, but I will be giving my personal opinions on schools, and because this is more directed at beginning players or players who haven't played since 2009, they may have forgotten certain things, so I'm just going to be kind of going over that. So first we get to Storm, and Storm is a very simple style, and that is attack. That is attack, that is attack, that is attack, and that is attack with big boys. So, it's just the Dwayne Johnson, Terry Crews, Shaquille O'Neal sort of school where you're just balling up 24/7. So, I love Storm. I love the purple and the yellow. I think it looks great. Rip Kobe. And it's just a cool school. I mean, every spell just looks epic. I mean, I remember I wanted Storm Shark really bad, and just seeing that looks cool. Kraken, one of my favorite looking spells. Stormzilla. It is just high damage, low accuracy. So what you're going to see with a lot of schools is you're going to see in the lower right hand of the card there, or left hand, I mean, you're going to see a percentage, and that percentage is going to be its accuracy. So accuracy just means, well, you do this thing called fizzling. So if you miss, you fizzle. So Storm has the lowest accuracy in the game with 70%. So you're gonna feel it when you play Storm, and they have very low health. So when you play alone, it can be okay once you get Tempest, which is a little bit higher up there. So if you don't get it within level 10, but it's high damage but low health, so that you can feel that later on in the game. Like, this is my Myth Wizard, and the one that I'm currently on, and I've been at places where I've had like 2,000 health, and then the people next to me is a Storm, and he or she has 1,400 health. So the health difference is there, but it's still nice for soloing because you can just one-shot things. I mean, you can, when you have Kraken, Kraken with a trap, which like buffs your spell a little bit, it can pretty much one-shot anything up to like Mushu, so, which is like the 4th world you get to. So it's nice. I really like Storm. I love the aesthetic of Storm. It looks cool, and each school has its own aesthetic, which we can go through. So Storm, big beater school, just hit things really hard, crush skulls. I like it. So That's Storm. So that's your first elemental school. Now next we get to Ice, and Ice is an interesting school. Ice has never been one of my favorite schools, mainly because of the professor here, Lydia Greyrose. She's like this little meatball lady. She's like a fairy, I guess. Um, it's weird because all the Ice is known for being like the giants, and then their professor is this little tiny goblin thing, and I hate her. I've just always hated her. I hate how when I go in there, she talks like some old lady, that whatever. She talks like she's like a fifth grade teacher. All right, it's bad, and so I'm not a huge fan of her. She looks like a basketball that you just ball up with LeBron James. You go up to his house, which I do all the time. Just walk up to him and be like, "Hey man, let's ball up," and I pull out of my Adidas duffel bag, Lydia Greyrose, and I just bounce on the concrete, shoot hoops, dunk on LeBron, you know. So I don't like her very much, but she helps me beat LeBron in basketball. So it is what it is. But Ice is cool because Ice is, you can see I've been kind of working with Ice on this Myth Wizard. It's very low damage. Low damage. I mean, this is 250 to 290 damage. That's their area of effect to all enemies. That little red devil's all enemies. And for example, I play Myth, and my is Humongo Frog, and that's 265 to 325. So, and Myth isn't even the strongest school, and it hits even harder than Ice. So, it's a little lackluster in the meat department there. Ice doesn't hit super hard, but it has got a lot of health, and its gear gives good resistance. So you're gonna be able to take a lot of hits. And there's this spell called Tower Shield, which I have, which is basically just minus 50% to any incoming spell. So any sort of attack spell or anything, it's minus 50%. So that's useful, and you will see your opponents, the enemies, do that a lot. So it's annoying, but it works good for you, so you can take a lot of hits. And just slowly be dishing out damage. The aesthetic of Ice is pretty nice. If you guessed it, it is ice. So it's kind of cool. You get some really cool. You get like Reindeer Knight later on, or now I guess if you wanted it. You just have to pay. Reindeer Knight, you get. So it's cool, but you're a tank. You're basically just a solid block of ice, just kind of moving along, like if you saw a solid block of ice and you went up and and you went up and hit it or something like that, which I'd want to do at least. It's gonna hurt, and nothing's really gonna happen. So that's, I guess, what it's going for. So Ice is cool. Kind of a harder class to play though, because you're not going to be dealing a lot of damage. And I know when I was at least a younger player or early game player, I kind of want to just kill things. So Ice, struggling with that, especially in the early game. It's not the best, but I love the way some of their spells look. So a lot of tanking in Ice, but they do have some buffs that make their spells a little bit stronger to kind of put them on par with other schools. But those are just some extra turns that makes it. The games just last a little longer. It's not super weak. The spells are weaker, but the school as itself isn't very weak. I like Ice. I think it's cool. I just hate Lydia Greyrose and her stupid face. So next we're moving over to Fire, and Fire has got Bernie Sanders as its representative here. So Fire is cool because it's kind of like it's not really a hybrid, but the thing is like Ice, its focus is tanking, and so that means it's super weak, Life, its focus is healing, but it's super weak. Fire, its focus is damage over time, but it still deals. It's the second highest damage dealer in all of the schools, second to only Storm. So it deals hefty damage, but its main focus is damage over time, which means that when you attack Fire Elf, for example, you see that plus 210 over 3 rounds, that clock is rounds. That's kind of their specialty, is that damage over time. That's what they do. But you'll find that isn't the best, because you want to get these enemies out of the way, So even if you, say, because after Colossus Boulevard, you have to deal with 2 and more enemies over the course of the game, so it can get a lot. And so, if you're running low on health and you attack one guy, you're like, oh, damage over time. You deal damage over time, and then that guy's gonna be alive for like 3 rounds, or another round or whatever. When, you play another school, you just kill him one shot, it's done. So it's kind of like a weird. I understand what they're going for, kind of a different play style with damage over time, but it doesn't work quite as well as I guess you would think it would. It is really nice for shields. When your opponent puts up a shield, then the tick of the damage over time will just take away the shield, so you're able to deal some consistent damage. But so I do enjoy fire. It was my first school I ever looked at. I remember getting Sunbird, which is their level 10 spell, and thinking it was a Phoenix, and it turned out to just be like a I don't know, like an Oriole or something, like a Cardinal. I don't know. It wasn't what I thought, but it's cool. So every spell in here looks really cool. I mean, you get like Efreet, which is like the evil genie from Aladdin. You get Elephant, Heckhound. You get like some cool spells in here. And they do hefty damage. They do deal hefty damage. We got 650 XP. But one thing you just have to look out for is the lower health, and I don't know. I don't know. I'm in this view. It's glitched. It's stuck. I'm sorry. I don't know what to do. So it's a cool spell or a cool school. It deals with damage over time, but it does have lower health, and so you're gonna have to struggle with that a little bit. But the spells look epic, and Bernie Sanders is representative of him, or of fire. So if you voted Bernie or want to vote Bernie, you have, it's a requirement. You have to be fire. But if you don't like Bernie, then maybe we go over here to Death School, which is, I don't know, probably like, I don't know who's president, Martin Van Buren, something. I don't know. Oh, Garfield, because he died. Yeah, so I think it's Kennedy, Lincoln, and Garfield. Their favorite school is the Death School. So basically, Death focuses on drains. So it focuses on drains. So it focuses on dealing damage and then healing yourself. So that's really good for soloing. So like Storm, for example, it's a little harder for soloing. Once you get Tempest, you're able to do that area of effect and really wipe things out, and it is heavy hitting, so it's nice for soloing, but you have really low health as a Storm, so that holds you back a little bit. But Death, being able to deal damage and heal yourself, gives this really nice cycle of survivability while also attacking. So you're able to deal damage. You kill an enemy, now you're back to full health. Then you kill another enemy, back to full health. So you don't have to worry about kind of really struggling, like, I have to kill this guy right now or else I'm gonna die, because you have that you have that healing capability. Or an opponent could deal a ton of damage to you. The next turn you heal and you get all that damage back. So you're kind of like in this nice gray zone of damage and healing, and you're not super good at either one. They do deal more damage than Ice and Life. This actually deals the same, but like Banshee and stuff deals a little more. So they are like Ghoul deals more. Or I don't know, it's kind of a weird zone, because like 160 is like less than like Snow Serpent, for example, technically, but then Snow Serpent can hit less than, so it's like a weird thing, but it's cool. I think Death is really cool. Alright, actually it might be the same as Ice and Life, so the same damage dealing potential, but you do have just basic attacks. You have drain attacks like Ghoul and Vampire. One thing about Vampire, you think it's just going to be like a cool Dracula sort of animation. It's not what you think it is. It's kind of funny. I remember the first time I saw it, and I was like, that's epic. But it's a very interesting school, very cool. It's very versatile. You have the healing, you have the heavy hitters. You also have a lot of status effects, like you have like Plague, which basically, weakens all your enemies' attacks. You have stuff to like deal damage to you, then heal you, or deal damage to you, heal someone else. So it's got like some outside healing capabilities, some pip stuff. It is a versatile school. I like Death a lot. My highest level wizard is Death Wizard. Really cool. And if you want that edgy sort of Blink-182 listening, Abe Lincoln role playing sort of death sort of thing. Really cool. Um, so I like Death a lot. I think it's really cool, and that aesthetic it's really nice, and you don't see it anywhere else in the game. A lot of the other games is more of a kid friendly sort of thing, but then here you deal with like death, and so it's a little different. But it's really cool. So I love Death, and I also love Abe Lincoln. Just so you guys know, in case you think I didn't. So next we get to School of Myth. Myth. This is my current Myth Wizard, is very cool, and no other school is like it. And I mean that by every school has its own focus. It has what it does best, and sometimes, and for pretty much all the school, it's kind of locked into that. So like Ice is not a damage dealing school. It's a survival sort of school. Storm, damage only. That's kind of all they do. But Myth, their sort of focus. I've got all of his spells pretty much except Earthquake, but their focus is going to be in like they like to summon minions. That's kind of their main specialty sort of thing, is like their minions summoning capabilities. But it doesn't work all too well because they can heal you, they can deal that damage when you fizzle, and they can deal that damage, and so that's kind of nice. But sometimes like you'll have a nice setup with like blades and traps and a nice prism, which basically converts it to the opposite school, and the opposite school deals more damage than, because if you find an enemy that say is a myth and you cast a myth spell, they're going to resist that. But then if you cast a storm spell on them, it actually does extra damage because they're opposites. So like same thing as fire and ice and life and death. And so this converts it to a storm spell, and so to deal more damage, but then like he'll just cast like a blood bat, which is just like the rank 1 weak myth spell, and then just kind of ruin it all for you and take away that prism, so now you're not doing as much. But aside from that, Myth has like a lot of different stuff going for it. It has got a very early damage or to all enemies sort of spell, so a really early AoE, very nice, with okay damage. I mean, 265 to 325 is nothing to write home about, but it's also nothing to wave off because other schools like Ice only hits to max 290, so it is nice. It's got like some big beaters, like you have Ninja Pigs hits very hard, especially right now. I'm in Mushu right now, and this thing is walloping people, so it's a strong spell. Then you have these just beaters, and then you have a lot of status things. So you have a lot of like Pierce, which removes shields, wards, which remove, or cleanse ward, which removes some negative, or not a negative effect, but thing that's trying to boost a spell onto you. That it does that. You have stunning effects. You have cleansing effects. Basically, that's what Earthquake does, which basically means it basically, after it does attack, it removes all charms and wards, which are things that buff and nerf your spells from your enemies. So it removes all of that, so cleansing stuff. You have a ton of different outcomes when you play as a Myth Wizard, a ton. And I didn't realize that just from reading about it, but I've actually started to go far with this guy, and I can really see that. You can build your deck kind of in a different way with any sort of battle. You're like, oh, this guy is this, so what would work best for me is if I did a lot of just heavy hitting with Ninja Pigs, Cyclops, and Humunga Frog. But this guy, he's a myth, so I might want to do some more stuff like, this guy casts a lot of shield, so maybe I want to play Minotaur, which basically deals that 50 damage first to get rid of the shield, and then the 445. But the blades and stuff still apply, so it can hit really nice and remove those shields. So there's a ton of different ways to play Myth, and so I really like it. I think it's a really interesting class, but it is a little tougher because you will get frustrated because it you're going to build a deck first. Like I started building this deck and I was only drawing status cards, and I was like, I need to attack. But then if I only did other things, then I was like, well, I need a Pierce. Where's my Pierce? So it's, you got to get used to it, but it's a very, very cool class. I really like it, and the spells alone are really nice. I mean, Ninja Pigs has a really cool animation. The only thing I don't like about Myth is this guy right here. I remember first seeing the spell, it is atrocious. It is absolutely repulsive. I don't know what they were thinking. Oh yeah, cool myth. Okay, we'll go Cyclops and Troll and Minotaur and like ninjas, you know, and then let's just put a giant frog that literally flops on the earth and pops it and then throws up acidic vomit on all of its enemies. That is great for a school of myth, you know? That is great. So I don't know where they came up with that, but that's the way it is, and it's kind of disgusting. And I saw it from the back one time, and it is even worse if you look at it from the back. So if you ever have the chance, don't do it. Just don't do it. But so this is myth. It's a very cool school, a lot of versatility. It hits like it's a very mid tier, like mid sort of stats school. So you're not gonna get a ton of health, a ton of damage, but you're gonna get kind of middle of the pack sort of stuff. So good survivability. I haven't had a lot of issues with it until I play myth, because once I play myth, people they, you know, they kind of mess things up. They mess up my juju, but otherwise it's a great school, and the aesthetic and stuff and the spells are really really cool in this school. So I highly recommend playing it. Maybe not as your first wizard, because it's a little struggle, because you have to really know the game before you can like cast stuns and all this type of stuff, or cleanses and stuff like that, and learn kind of how it works, because I'm still experimenting with Minotaur to see how exactly it works and where the traps work and all this type of stuff, but it's interesting. So I love myth, but it's not for everybody. It can get kind of complicated, and I'm still learning with it. And next we get to life. And so life, man, if you're a vegan, you gotta play life. I'm sorry. You gotta play life. You know, I mean, it's just the way it is. But obviously, if you're also vegan, if you're vegan, you have to play life. But if you're also vegan, you can also play any other school. So life, very cool school. Again, their focus is only healing. It is like only healing. Like most get their level 10 spell here, which is like some sort of damage spell. You know, Myth is Cyclops, Storm is Storm Shark, Death Banshee, etc. They get a heal spell. And they don't get another attack spell until level 22, which means you're going to be, for 17 levels, casting Imp and Leprechaun, which, you know, leprechauns are cool, you know, I guess they're kind of cool. Imps, I guess, you know, but just for some reason they had to give these guys really weird voices. So like this guy goes like, he just laughs at you and then plays his little fiddle and his little dance. It's like, oh god. And then this guy, he slides down a rainbow. The animation's kind of cool, but then he speaks, I don't even know what he says in here. So it's just like a weird made up language. And so, you know, for 17 level, if you want to do that for 17 levels, you can, because once you start getting past like Seraph and stuff, the spells start getting cool. Satyr, really nice healing spell. Centaur is a really cool looking spell. Once you get past, you know, it's gonna be a while, but then you get just cool spells after that, and it's a really nice aesthetic. The nature and the trees and stuff, very cool. So I highly recommend you eventually make a life wizard, and they're great support. Everybody loves. Nobody's gonna say, oh, a life wizard on our team, because they're really good, and they can get really strong, especially in the later game. But their focus is just healing, and they deal very low damage. So when you solo with this, which I'm assuming most of you guys probably will be doing, if you solo with this, it's gonna be a while, but it's not gonna be that bad, because you're gonna be able to heal. You're gonna be able to heal and come back and stuff like that. So it's not like you're gonna die all the time. It's just, you know, it's just a little tougher. You're not gonna be, you know, one-shotting things. But again, the aesthetic very cool. I wasn't a huge fan of Melinda Wu. I think it's just because her name was like Linda. I don't know. Maybe it was that. Maybe it was her huge nose. Maybe it's because she's a ripoff of Back at the Barnyard. I don't know. Or I don't know which one came out first, but I'll have to see that. But she's pretty cool, I guess. I like Linda now. I do. life is very cool if you really like healing and the aesthetic of just kind of that nature stuff. But a big drawback is I was talking about Humongo Frog and like Blizzard and stuff, and even Meteor Strike for Fire. You get them very early on in the game, like level 22 or level 26. But you do not get a area of effect spell, which means it attacks all enemies. You do not get that until level 58 for life, and that is a long ways away. So you will not get that area of effect until a while. So again, questing and grinding and farming and that type of stuff with life is brutal. It can get tough unless you have like that storm to just cast, Tempest and destroy everything ever. I mean, it's a similar deal with Death. Death doesn't have everything. Death does not have an AoE until level 48, which is Scarecrow. I love the spell, but it took me a while to get there. So that can get kind of tough, but it's a really cool school, and I love the aesthetic. Blossom also has probably rolled up a couple doobies, but I'm not 100% sure. But you can decide for that one. Now here is Arthur Weathersfield. Now Arthur Weathersfield is the instructor of Balance, and Balance highly do not recommend to play as your first school. Because it is it's like the balance of everything. It's like everything's all in balance. And so this is what I was talking about earlier with the groups. You're separating the elementals and the spirit schools. And so the thing with balance is that, first off, it's aesthetic. I don't really like it that much. I mean, it's like a lot of insects. I love insects, don't get me wrong. Or scorpion's not an insect. But, it's got creepy crawly looking dudes. Well, technically in this, Scarab only has 4 legs, so he's not an insect either. But point being, you get a lot of these creepy crawly looking dudes. I remember getting Locust Swarm and thinking it was going to be the most epic thing ever, and it turned out just be like this little yellow ball thing that flies at you. Not that cool. Sandstorm, you'd think it'd be like, oh, a cool tornado. No, it looks like someone like coughed, in the Sahara, and then it kind of moved some sand, and then fling it at you. It's like not very cool at all. So it's a lot of tan and very kind of boring looking spells. I mean, even Hydra, which is their level 42 spell, is literally just like 3-headed thing that just onto your head like that. I mean, it's quick. The aesthetic isn't incredible. But it's a great support school because that's what they focus on. They focus on buffing and nerfing. So they buff you and your friends, and they weaken your opponents. So they can be kind of hectic to deal with if you're soloing and you fight like a balanced enemy. They can be kind of annoying because they're weakening you and buffing their buddies and stuff like that. But for soloing, I do not recommend it, or at least your first wizard, because it can get very tedious. And like I was saying before, each school has its opposite school that deals extra damage. Balance does not, but it still resists balance attacks. So if you have a balanced boss or a balanced enemy, it's going to be kind of tough because you're not going to be able to ever deal boosted damage to them. So it can get tedious, and again, the spells aren't super strong. Again, 255, 295, that's 5 more than Blizzard, So you are not hitting for big attacks, but it's a interesting and kind of more complicated school to play, but I don't recommend it to be your first wizard. But if you want to make it and you have some friends, then being a balance isn't a bad thing, just because it's you're able to buff and stuff. But just soloing alone, it can get a little tedious. I've rarely seen very high level balance wizards, and I think it was created more as, again, it's the 7th school. I mean, you have the 3, and then you have the 3, and then you have the 7th one. That's just kind of the balance school, keeping everything in balance, and it's just about buffing. So But I do like, I've always liked Arthur Weathersfield. He's a nice looking man. And their teacher's like, their actual teacher is like a crocodilian guy from like Crocotopia, which is like the Egypt of Wizard or of the Spiral or something. So it's kind of cool. So that was kind of just the basic rundown of all of the schools. So if you guys want to play, I highly recommend it. There's still stuff going on. They just had an update the other day. I don't know how much longer they're going to keep updating it, but I've seen previous estimates say the game's going to go until 2030, 2025. So it's going to be a couple more years. So especially during a time like this where we're just kind of all quarantining, at least for another week or so, or whatever, I highly recommend hopping on Wizard101 and just experimenting with it. And if you enjoy it, then, you know, maybe just get enough membership just so you can go to the next world or so, or something like that, and then just see how you like it from there. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoy the video. I'm gonna go kiss Mr. Lincoln goodbye. Tell Torrance a funny joke because he's always sad all the time. I don't know. And then Kelvin, it's most people won't understand that. They will not understand that his name is Kelvin for a specific reason. So, you know, Bernie Sanders. You know, oh, never mind. Embers does not rhyme with Sanders, but you know, I was going for it. All right, so that's what we got for today. I hope everybody enjoyed. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.